Oh, the special instructions I have to look at, but
I think we have to stop the recording.
pause it.
Anybody even in there?
No, not yet. And just as an FYI, the system has changed. There was a problem at the council, and when people enter a Zoom meeting now, they come in on mute. And we have to unmute them if they want to speak. They have to either raise their hand or send something through the chat. So do you remember one night we had someone, a little kid come on? Yeah, that won't happen anymore. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah.
I know.
Okay, Rick Dory, Frederick Stewart, Fred McCarthy, and Dwight Dowd. Excellent. Thank you, gentlemen. So all are present. We have a quorum.
Yes.
Yes, there are some adjustments to the agenda. Actually significant adjustments. So we have our ordinance and we were working some changes based on the state requirements and deadlines. And then at a previous workshop, I had said to you, I'm working with Jim King about making the format, more. And then now, so I've got these two formats going on, and I'll show it to you later. I'll just tell you right now that we have a draft of the online code, the unified code. So I have printed some documents for you to look at tonight that are in that new format. So we can make our amendments now in the new format, and it'll get posted that way. So all the references, the sections are all different. So I want to start using that code instead of continuing with the amendments that I had. So it's good and bad. It pushes off, for another meeting, being able to make motions and do that, except for one action I'd like you to take tonight. So I'll show you that and go over that. But as far as individual actions and reviewing on these, I want to put it out in another meeting and we have the actual document and to look at this the documents you have later.
Looking back.
Bill Monaco, was he at the site visit? Okay.
Then. So. If you would want to go on what you intend to do, microphone a little bit.
Is this the ad?
Name and thing. What you-
On the team, okay.
So my name is Nathan Allen.
Oh.
Water resource specialist. I was hired to make sure that any of the work done on the spot does not impact the lower narrows. You guys saw the site visit, and so the idea is to keep all of the water on the site with any stormwater overflow going around the corner and back down the CMP easement and into the road and then down into the ditch and into that low area. The way that the place is zoned now, that isn't feasible to build a house in that zone. So my proposal was to use the LiDAR data, the field surveying techniques to find out where that 20% slope is, and then remap that to be the resource protection zone. And then the rest of the area be the regular shoreline zone. That was.
You can deal with it. Thank you, Bill.
Oh, yeah, sure.
That was a quick
Yeah.
You got dinner?
And so,
Lucky you.
I didn't get dinner, no.
Wow.
No, I get it, I got my like, go ahead, Dee.
Oh.
And so part of this discussion out there was, where the best suitable place would be for this house. And while it is true that you could have it on the other side of the power line, aesthetically, I think all of us would agree that if that was our place, we wouldn't want to look at a power line right in our front view. And essentially, we can accomplish the same stormwater things as either site, whether on one side of the power line or the other, with the engineering controls in place. And I think, if that was any of your proposed building site, you might think that too. So that's all.
Okay, so let's, what he's saying is you're in the first step, basically setting that property for contours and layouts.
Yes.
It's not intended for where the building's going, or is that part of it?
No, that would just be delineating the slopes,
That's it.
delineating the slopes, and you're creating a zone, the resource protection zone based on the slopes that exist.
Anything beyond that is additional input for the application.
Yes.
Okay. So if you would, as a board, keep in mind, that's what we're talking about, is what he's proposing to do, it's kind of the first step.
Okay, and also part of that would be to have DEP review this work. As part of it.
So when it comes right over here, keeping that in mind, some of our questions we had are premature, what I understand. Go ahead, Dwight, any input?
Not right now.
Right.
Think so. So will you not be seeing this application through the process with the planning board? You're strictly looking at this delineation to try and get rezoned, and then you step away from.
No, I'm gonna be involved the whole time.
Okay, okay.
Doing site visits, doing site visits to make sure they're doing everything right, on-site inspections, making sure they're, doing what they're supposed to.
Okay, so you'll actually be compiling the application that will be coming before us. I just want to make sure if we're having, if you've got specifics, if we're sharing, that it's going to come back.
Yes, absolutely, yes,
Thank you.
okay, yeah.
Well, let me understand, you're creating the application after the study?
I believe the application is in progress or in place that Ryan submitted.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is an application that was submitted, but we determined that it didn't meet zoning. So it was put off and this application for zoning amendment came in.
Your bonus for the whole project.
Yes, that's, yeah.
Thank you for the clarification. No question.
Yeah, just for my perspective, I'm not a fan of spot zoning. That's sort of what we're talking about here, is fixing the zoning for this specific location. It's not a spot zone, but you're saying you want to correct the zoning, and the resource protection is applied a little too liberally, and I don't disagree with your thought process, but I am concerned that there are a lot of other lots that need to be fixed as well, and should the town, that to me is an action we could address to Dawn and say, we'd like to make that an action for the town, because it's definitely been a process and a problem in multiple locations where the resource protection is applied incorrectly.
I was intending on going up that slope for those like 5 or 6 lots. That was my intention, was to do it in that area.
And that's appreciated, and that's what we have to talk about, is if you were rezoning, a corner of the lake and where the resource protection begins and ends, that section would be corrected, then we would have to adopt that, and that would have to go to the town council to be approved.
Yes.
Once that was approved, then I think we could address and talk about your project. I think from my understanding of the ordinance itself is your project proposal as proposed is a mandatory 250-foot setback. The property can be built at 250 foot. So that would be my understanding, is that we can't approve that because we're within the 250 foot, and the property you could build beyond that mark, given the site layout and the site review we did today.
Don?
No.
Jamie?
I'm not adverse to the idea of making sure that it is clearly resource protection, that area. But where it starts, it seems like it's relevant to the applicant and the land that he owns. So I think it's worth looking into, my opinion, to make sure that it is an accurate representation. So if we are able to get that, but I do also agree with Greg that it should be that whole area, not just one person's single space that we're applying this to. And it should apply to all the properties that are resource protection. So if it should be something the town takes care of and oversees.
I'm committed to doing it for this section, not the whole town.
Not the whole, but this section, right. Yeah.
I wouldn't do it for the town, but
I don't think that we would need to do it for the whole town, maybe a future project, but we could, I think taking this section would make better sense and not spot zoning for just the one individual property. Yes. Yeah. So, yeah.
It's interesting to hear you talk about the map amendments. We were talking earlier about the interpretation of the comprehensive plan and how you look at site specific. And then there's 250 feet that applies in a lot of places that, I'm not sure how that came. Did they just put a blanket and then they're relying on site by site? I could argue that either way, but it's a good discussion to have. He's hired.
Bill? I think if I can follow up.
Some additional information, how they're gonna shoot for managed stormwater. And where best to put this based on the LiDAR information.
Bill?
No, I was just gonna say, I agree, and I think I mentioned last time, there's seven, I felt seven. Okay, all right, like, you can't hear me. No, I think there's 7 shorefront properties, the 11th properties on that road, I think, something's on that order, but 7 shorefront that are subject to resource protection. And, I agree that you don't want to just rezone or split zone one of those properties. You would do all of them and look at them all. And my suggestion is that you would look at the 7, and because this one obviously has some severe shoreline or resource protection steepness to it. It's like 40-some% steepness. Is that if this particular property tapers off 100 feet, but 4 of the other 5 or 6 of the other 7 taper off at 150 or 170 feet, then I would just say all 7, 170 feet or 160 feet, rather than trying to, you just don't, it just seems unfair. I've never seen that done, so. And the thing, and I mentioned this to Nate when I first met with him before the last planning board meeting, because I've known Nate a few years. But again, as I mentioned today, and I mentioned about feeling this, so I have cold or allergies. I could be one of the 2, but I think it's allergies. That steepness renders that 100-foot setback ineffective as a buffer. And I mentioned the Nate, and this is when then you said, well, what if we were to do some kind of alteration of the landscape there to direct runoff away from that steep slope? But and I shared this with Colton Clark at DEP, and he also agreed with my logic, is that if anything, after you get to the top of a 45-foot slope, which is 100-foot and setback, then the structural setback is still another 100 feet, because you still want to have a 100-foot effective buffer that is less than a 20-foot slope with infiltrated runoff. You don't just build the house right at the top of a 45-foot slope because you're 100 feet back. So.
You're all set. I got a question. Out of the site you mentioned about Colin had a problem with 250 feet in our ordinance. And I wanted to ask Don, we did a lot of work with fixing Colin's feedback on our original submission of our zoning ordinance. We fixed that where it matched the table and the.
Yes, correct.
And is he aware of that? We fixed that?
He is now. I sent it to him, actually, well, I don't know if it was Bill, someone
You gave me a copy today.
today, and I emailed a copy last week because Bill made me aware that Colin did not have that.
We got a copy of Bill on that, so he now has it.
He has it digitally, and I can contact him, see if he wants a hard copy. He usually accepts things digitally, but so we did it accordance with the condition of approval, and I didn't follow up and send him what we actually adopted, but it is in keeping with what,
At this point, he has it.
correct.
Okay. So you're accurate?
What?
You're accurate and it's been taken care of.
Yeah, the thing is, Tom was met with me a few weeks, a month or 3 weeks or so ago. I was still like convinced that. See, I thought when the town, when the town was proposing to go to 250-foot setback, not just the zone depth, but the setback, like last year, I thought it was a voluntary thing that you were doing it to be more protective than you needed to be. I didn't realize that was state law. I have chapter 1000, which are the guidelines for shoreline zoning. We stopped doing code enforcement in Winthrop with Cobb's watershed. We did for like 30 years. It stopped in 2006 when Beth Youngman came over here to the town office because now they had the real estate, the office space to handle codes. So I never got the updated chapter 1000, which said it's 250-foot setback. Nate's telling me, well, it is 250. He says, no, Nate, it says here it's 100. I thought it was 100. So it's nice to get the confusion taken care of. So.
Yeah, sorry about that, Gap.
Thank you for coming back. Yes.
I was just looking at this map. There's one. There's 6 lots. 2 of them are very small and unbuildable, and all the other lots are already built on. So this change won't affect anyone else's building at all on this stretch. So that's a concern.
Unless they want to do an expansion or put a shed or something, then I mean, it does come.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, so, but it's not gonna turn a vacant lot into a house.
So a couple of things I had. Notice the tent platform. I don't know who permitted that. I don't know
That
if
was-
it's violation.
That was before I get involved, I don't know about that. But I think my feedback that I heard was that it's movable and it can be taken down and would be taken down in this. Depending on how this goes.
2 is the erosion is occurring with what they're trying to do with the culvert and the driveway.
I
It's
saw
not a
it.
good place to start.
Right.
Erosion control.
Yeah.
So please pass that on.
I hope that's that.
It's not good practice for getting people to cooperate with it.
I agree.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you very much for coming back and having that discussion. We'll forward to your input on your study. Thank you. Next item.
I just want to make a follow-up comment. I'm going to create a punch list for map, anything shoreline related moving forward so that something like giving the Combahee Watershed District or Colin a copy of the final product that shouldn't have happened. So I'll create a punch list.
So, okay, tell us something. I'm sorry.
So it's, I was unclear. I was unclear on how this could resolve. This like we move forward with this.
Like you move forward, making your study, bring it back to us, that information.
Okay. All right, very good.
I just clarified that, so 4 board members have to be in support of the change, contemplating the change moving forward. If there aren't 4 members who are thinking, yeah, we should take the next step, I would take at least a straw poll. I'm sorry, in the zoning map.
I have a motion.
It was more just to get, I thought it was more just to get a straw vote on this, on an actual motion.
I don't think we do straw votes.
Yeah, I suppose that actually isn't, you want to give the applicant an indication of whether they should move forward and spend time and money on a study, so they're asking for a change, a motion would be appropriate.
Should be, should changing that, zone. I mean, it's that simple.
Yeah,
And then what you're saying is that moved and seconded, and at least the four member vote will consider,
yeah, you're right, that
not
is,
prove it.
yes.
They clarify?
Sure.
Anybody will make a motion?
So I can make a motion, that the board would consider the proposed correction to the resource protection lines in that the Pellet Tropical Bore area, would, consider evaluating that on moving forward with the different applications. But first, we have to consider that, accept it just to define the process. We have to consider it, we have to accept it and vote on it, have to go to the town council, they have to accept that change. And that would be a correction is what I'm calling it. It's not a change. It's not a, well, it is a change, but it's a correction to the resource protection lines that are drawn on the map. So I'm gonna restate my motion one more time. My motion is that the board is in favor of allowing the applicant to redraw the, correct the, resource protection lines for this property and all of the abutting and adjoining properties in this area.
We have a second?
Yeah, so.
Well,
Got 3 seconds.
guess that means we're good.
Pick one. Don, pick.
Did everyone vote?
3 seconds. No.
It doesn't matter.
Oh,
It
yeah,
really
so is
doesn't
Greg
matter.
and Jamie.
Any further discussion? Everybody understand the motion? Go ahead.
So I think I understand the motion. So is the board in favor of allowing an applicant to come forward to propose a change in zoning for these laws?
Using the LiDAR data, yeah. Yep. To update the lines over the updated lots.
Any other discussion? On favor? Opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank both of you. And thank you for the time to this. Take it off. Yeah. What do you think? All right, next was acceptance of minutes. April 8th, 2026.
Well,
Second? Yeah, Don. I have Don seconded.
sorry.
Dwight moved. You have a question?
I put down that the site walk and the meeting was at the next meeting, a May meeting.
You changed it.
Yes, the correct date. I put May 13th, so I'd like to change the date.
There's a second from Don. Discussion? Eric, Rebecca, all in favor? Oh. Right. You were there. All right. Okay, next was solar energy generating system one. And we have a new.
I just wanted to know, so what you have materials that Greg had created and worked on, and then the printout is the existing ordinance. And so changes that Greg is proposing, if you all actually do suggest specific changes, I can incorporate them into that new ordinance. So I'm asking you to consider doing that, because that is not formally an adopted template. It's in your stack.
Okay,
Yep, so behind the one with the red writing in the notes, there's an actual draft ordinance.
then added Greg's changes, so he's ready to. If other people know the town council will also shoot. The trade, or guidance to do that work.
So I just want to be clear again that the draft that you've received is a draft of the current language. It needs to be proofed against the current language. So any changes could be made to that ordinance, and they're not in there now. I just gave that to you to see the outline, the format. Does everyone have the same? So this here, it's chapter 215. This is a draft of the current ordinance in a new format. And so everything you talk about tonight, I'm proposing that we will change here ultimately, because that's what's going to go online eventually and be the code. Correct. It has to be reviewed, but it's supposed to be. Correct. Yes.
Yeah. Very wonderful.
Sure, I mean, the town council asked to take another look. That's the summary notes, or what I captured that they had issues for. And I basically tried to incorporate those into the ordinance. That was my attempt. I know we had a partial discussion about this when we were at the library. And there were some concerns about a couple of the pieces, and I think that's what we're here to discuss. Do we want to adopt all the town's proposed changes, or do we think that we want to discuss them? So I think the two contentious points that are probably the most significant were the requirement of a third-party inspector of the electrical and the cap on the number of, or the maximum amount of solar that the town's would adopt or could adopt. And I think a couple valid points were made. One, the third party inspector was already required to have a state inspector. Why are we doing that? And I think that from my perspective, we could easily capture the town council's concern by just making sure we get a copy of what the state inspector signed off on and put that in the file. So I think that one would be an easy adjustment to make. And I'm in favor of removing the third party inspector requirement, but just making sure that we have a document from the state and have that document available in our packet.
Agreed.
So I think that's just, I just wanted to say that these are the two things. The second one was the amount of solar, how we regulate the number of solar fields, the amount, you put it down as a megawatt. I think the point was brought up that, well, what if solar panels tomorrow get super, super efficient and they
Yep.
put it up? Does that mean we would have the last person to ask if do they even come to us for a replacement panel? I don't know. Do we do that based on, it was definitely the town council's perspective that they wanted to limit the amount of solar it was. That was, how do we do that? What's the right way to do that? Do we even want that? I thought it was reasonable to put a cap on it, but I don't know what that cap should be. Should it be based on area? Should it be based on megawatt power output? Should it be based on, number of facilities, but then should somebody have a facility that's 20 times bigger than the facilities we have? I mean, is there, what are the limitations or the boundaries we want to put on it? I don't think there's an easy button. I did search that a little bit, and there are a few towns that said they limit the number of facilities. But again, I don't think the number is going to cover you all the way. And I don't think the wattage is necessarily the best. It was the only thing I came up with at the time. But, for me, that's open for debate because I don't feel like there is a right answer for that. It's just a question. And as far as our understanding from the town attorney, there is nothing to say that we can't limit it. So there's no state law that says you can't disallow it, but you can cap it. Just like they do with recycling, can recycling permits and, alcohol and a number of other things. The state and the towns are allowed to limit how many of those permits you issue in the town. So, I mean, we could say by permit.
How many do we have already? Do we know that off the top of our heads? Because I know some aren't happening now, so now I don't know what the number
That's
is.
the question. I think when we approved, I had in our records that we approved 5, 6 before the moratorium and between 4 and 5 after the moratorium. But again, we don't know, I guess, because I don't know if they hand the building permit back, but I'm not sure exactly what happens when they when they don't build, they have a certain time period, right? And if they don't build, then their permit just goes.
Yeah.
But I don't know what that number is.
I did inquire of Mark and he thought that there were 6 that were permitted and built.
Okay.
And he didn't know offhand how many were permitted and not built. There were more permitted that weren't built. There's more than 6
But don't
that
they
were
have- I think it's only,
a year.
it's 1 year they have,
We haven't seen anything in a year.
but I think they can request Mark to extend their permit. So, but I would think Mark would have that record. Because they'd have to ask him for the extension. They wouldn't have to come back for us.
See,
They could ask him for an extension.
I think that makes more sense limiting by the number versus, because like you said, that information can change with the megawatt and all, like, we don't know how obsolete that number could be in 5 years. So,
If I had,
I don't know.
Let's go back on all that, get done. I had to guess. They're gonna pick a number for your number 5,
yeah,
number 5, and find this one, I don't. That was my sense.
That was definitely the sense they wanted to, but
And with that said, I wonder if it would be a combination of total megawatt capacity and the number. In the ordinance, and that's what we're seeing.
yeah. Well, because they can't go over a certain size anyway, so it's not like we can get one that's like 50 acres.
no, they can.
We capped it in our ordinance.
We tried to cap it, but the state still allows for it. So we put a limit on there, but on a megawatt on size.
No, not mega, but
We.
how many acres they
Yes,
could
we
do.
Put a cap on
Yeah.
acres.
Yeah,
So, yeah, but I'm not sure if they could call that multiple facilities. Well, I guess then you'd be all set if you had a number. The
yeah,
state allows you to put much bigger facilities in.
yeah.
We were the ones.
But if we say 10 and they can't go past 10 acres for each one,
Then you.
that is
you're
keeping it.
capping it, Yeah,
but they could replace and do better panels in the future or a different company take over and rebuild or reuse the permit, whatever, and then. Yeah,
so I think that.
The,
There's some other small changes, but I think you can see that from the town. It's what the town council reflected is that what we added into the ordinance, they wanted a process for how to build. So just the certain check-in points that they have to do when they're building. So
yeah.
I just pulled that from a different ordinance and made it, you had changed.
what an input.
Yeah, I would suggest, some reference to security plans. We talk about operation and maintenance, you have nothing about security.
I don't believe it's an hour, it is a state requirement, they have those things put fence, they have to have a chief. But we maybe should capture that from a state.
Just contact information, usually a security plan, you know, they're gonna give your,
They have that with the fire
They
marshal.
have to have it with the fire department.
Yeah,
but there's nothing here that says you have to mandate, there's nothing in here that talks about security. And it allows us an access, some insight as to how to control access to that plan. This is the judge. Well, I'll also say, I like electricity. I like electricity, you know, what I don't like though is how the vast majority is generated, which results in the emission of CO2. So when you start looking for alternatives, solar is one. And Winthrop right now, it's very difficult to put in any wind power. The ordinance essentially forestalls that. You're not gonna do any hydro. And so the last option you have that doesn't generate a lot of CO2 is solar. And yet there's a move to limit that.
I don't disagree, I think it's a kind of knee-jerk reaction to seeing what happened on 202. And I'd like to know if Councilmember Steele is on the planning board to hear his concerns or share information. I thought it's an individual that had information in the solar industry was going to come and talk to us and work with us in the workshop so we can come up with something to address their concerns. Does that happen?
I think the regulars, yeah. going to one for, that particular person was that, and I was all that go that's what they're adding from, my sense was that you wanted more in our ordinance about the electric period, and frankly, I tried one time to meet that, and not happen, so if I'm concerned, we'll move on.
Thank you. I would echo Greg's sentiment on the third party reviewer and just change that to, yeah, he's got to submit a copy of it for us, we'll have it in our file. And maybe
Whatever, somebody else is supposed to do.
the state has to do it, yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we approve solar that's non-commercial, non-utility scale.
It's not supposed to apply to non-commercial.
You can still get solar panels on your house and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All I'm saying, the way to said that all approved solar is all approved commercial solar, correct?
Yeah.
So we could add that, yeah. Other than that, I don't know.
And I do have an email, I think Dak has been reached out to a number of times, and I mean, maybe his concerns have been addressed and that's why we haven't heard from him, but he's aware of agendas and it's ongoing.
That's one time though. I question, planning board getting solar if they don't get started early? Or should we? They have a year and then.
I mean, that's a question for Mark, is that they just walk in his door and say, give me another year, and he grants it. If they don't do that, essentially, my understanding is the permit it disappears, and they would have to come back to us to get another. If it's one day after a year and they have done nothing, and somebody comments on it, I think they're basically would have to come back and get the building permit. But I know personally, building things, if you go to the market and say, hey, I'm not done yet, and I get an extension.
Yeah, I understand.
You'd be able to grant it, so
Specifically solar.
I'm not sure.
Because of what happened on 202.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we're allowed to do that.
Totally strip that land and.
Yeah. I think so too, yeah. Yeah, and if you grant them an extension,
My hope, at least. I don't think they should have. Granted. When they filed this with that. That's just my opinion.
can we put, that's a question for Don, I mean, can we put code enforcement in our ordinance? When it's already,
It is in there.
no, that's what,
You can make sure that we get standard conditions of approval, and I actually have a draft based on the current ordinance of what standard conditions for solar farms moving forward should be. And we've talked previously about, having updates, that table of, so approvals, the status of approvals and conditions of approval, like just kind of ongoing update the status of projects that you've approved. So when an expiration date is. You did have Winona Drive and Turkey Lane came in and renewed their approval because they were going to expire.
right, but I'm saying we would actually change it, our amendment to say the code enforcement officer cannot extend the time.
That they have to come back to us?
For the planning board for an extension.
Yeah, you can say that.
Yeah,
Sure.
okay, I don't know.
And I'm only specific.
So it would be specifically only in this ordinance, and it would only be that they're getting their building permit if they cannot meet the town's ordinance, which we could write out again. Copy it in there, say, this is exactly what it is, you have to have this by 12 months. Then you have to have this by 24 months, if you do not meet this, you have to come back to the planning board.
We
We're
can,
allowed to say that, that we could add that.
we could put the expiration date on it in the notice of decision. If it's 12 months in the ordinance, you can put that 12 months condition and here's the date. And it's good to do that sometimes because you put it on a planning board meeting date as opposed to the day before and then it expires and they forgot and.
We probably have to be careful. Because also, Mark doesn't issue that permit if we have conditions. And we're like, oh, we need to get the state approval, we need to get this. Can they wait a year and a half to bring in that approval, and now they get their building permit, and now they get 12 months? Or is it 12 months from when we approve it?
Yeah.
When you approve it.
Is it?
If they don't pull a building permit in that time frame, and then they have to vest themselves in the building permit. So once they pull a building permit, they have to have substantial start of work.
Right.
So there, and I did ask Mark about that. They did do some earthwork activity up on that site. They pulled a permit and then and that was, so that contributed towards,
Yeah, I know, you said that, you're right.
And I have to go back. We approved that one specifically for,
I don't remember talking about the start date or any of that. I remember them talking about getting the state permit and the CMP hookup was a big process. And that took a lot of time. But I don't remember us ever saying like, oh, you have to start by this time. Or any discussion about time, other than them saying it's gonna take long. So for that case, I don't,
should we make those good points that go,
that's the question is, do we want to add that to the ordinance?
that's what you're asking, that's what I'm saying. It was just for so.
Yeah.
And maybe it won't happen.
well, you have deadlines for permits in general, usually, right? There's 1 year. So I would suggest that you adopt a practice across the board of putting in the expiration date in the notice of decision and the conditions of approval, and we can put that on a punch list on a calendar. And as part of this, we're going to track and see what the status of it, because your approval and Mark's are different.
The number of the ordinance. No.
We would take the deadline in the ordinance and add it as the standard condition of approval that you would adopt. And because things that are in the ordinance, the applicant doesn't go back and look at. You could put them on the line and say, hey, this is what the ordinance says, but if it doesn't get recalled as part of the approval, it may not happen. If we spell it in black and white on the notice of decision, the board, and when they adopt the findings, and I did put a copy for you all of, you made a finding for the Turtle Run condo conversion, and we've talked about this a number of times. I gave you a sample, but I wanted you to see this, how that ended up in writing.
Either.
Yes, and it comes from the ordinance.
Oh, it could be on like the, like 0.17, like here, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah, so it is in the ordinances now. And if you just make sure when you adopt your findings, you're going to call that out. The ordinance says 1 year and here's the date. We're just going to reference, make it a condition. You're not just going to vary as you go along. I believe. Oh, I hear what you're saying. That shouldn't be a problem. If they apply to the planning board and within the year time before your approval expires, they get a building permit, that building permit is good. If they, within a year, or if they have to vest themselves. They can't let it hang up for 2 years and not do anything, because that's not the intention. If they're vested, if they vest themselves.
But if they say we're going through the CMP process. They get it done. Even though they got it.
No, yeah, we get more clear on that. I hear what you're saying. Can I chew on that?
Solar farm, applicant comes in, we make the application, give an approval on somebody to develop a solar. They get a notice of decision from planning board that says, we've reviewed your application, we approve it. They then have to go to Mark to get a permit for construction.
Meet all the conditions and
That's where
then,
their 1 year kicks in. They issue the permits, go 1 year, they got need 1 year to start substantively start construction.
yes. Because then they're vested in the building permit. He can't rescind that permit. I mean, if there's violations, but once he issues a permit and have met all the conditions of the planning board, because he can't issue the building permit prior to then, once they've got enough activity and investment, that there's a definition in the ordinance. I think it's 30% and it's cost based, but I have to look and see if the cost would include something like what you're talking about. If they didn't do enough work in that time period, they would have to come back and it expires. If you pull a building permit and you don't get your project vested in that permit, there's no building permit, which means you have to go back to the planning board.
Right, so are we talking two different things though, where some, like in Greg's case, we approve a project. They then come back and say, we've approved it, they come back 7 months or 8 months later or something and say, GCP is dragging their feet, we don't have our interconnection agreement. You're saying that Mark cannot grant them an extension at that point, that what you're proposing is that they would have, that applicant would have to come back to the planning board for a home permit?
What I'm proposing is what Don was proposing, it's just stating that exact term is that Martin cannot grant an extension. They have to come back to the planning board to get another extension.
But if they've started construction and
Then they wouldn't need an extension. And they would,
I think you have to define what substantially started is.
Right.
It's not going out to the bulldozer.
right, but I worry about if it's based on a dollar and they say, well, our CUP permit is $50,000 and we've got that in there. That would be probably a pretty substantial start. I would think, if it's a dollar, you know, because I'm sure their CFP interconnection costs more than bulldozer work is.
You want like on-site work
don't-
being
I-
done potentially.
I'm just going around the
Yeah.
idea, saying, oh,
I don't know, it's so tricky.
You can also put in your conditions that a building permit can't be issued until whatever the criteria is, until all the earthwork's done, until certain permits are on hand. You know, you can define very specifically in the conditions when that permit can be issued, because all they have to be met and Mark will wait. If that's helpful.
Basically, they have to prepare the law that they're gonna do these on. To take these solar panels, most cases they tell us it's old.
Yeah.
But it's that they need them for 80 improvements. So I'm saying, at a minimum, they would have to be there. Where all the earthwork's done. And if they violate the buffers or anything else, then we would know that, wouldn't issue.
right, and for that specific project, they removed the vegetated buffer entirely. And that was not the intent, even though I went back and looked at our notes, we didn't explicitly state that. It was clearly
say, doesn't
It-
it say shall maintain?
yes, it does.
Well,
We talked about, I remember talking about it with them.
And they didn't
Ugh.
indicate, so,
Cut down and say you're gonna replant it, that's what you mean.
no, exactly.
Not all, I always remember we discussed that.
I
Even
know.
early on,
Yep.
it was a big deal.
Yep.
I think when Andy was trying to lease his land, we really got into that, you know. What are you gonna do with the land?
Right, and
Well, even everything's gonna stay right there, I have a bolt or something, they'll take that. Our equipment's gonna go in, just post or whatever. We denied letting them put the propane counts in because it is. I can't believe we didn't talk about that then, but maybe we ought to be more, maybe it's in there now.
It's pretty clear in the ordinance, they shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
So to me, when the town council asked, that's what I said. I read the section, I think I read the section to them. And said, that's, you know, to me, that's a violation, but we're not code enforcement.
No,
You know, but that's what the ordinance says, and they went and cut down the entire vegetated buffer on the front side.
we have commercial, to solve that.
I didn't change anything for that.
I can send some word. The water,
No, because, I mean, it already says it in the ordinance. It
Yeah.
already says that we're going to maintain a vegetated buffer.
no, I'm sorry, I'm talking about the 1 year,
Oh, the 1 year,
we had that written down.
yeah, I have that one right down as, well, I just said, you know, we want to add the building permit timeline and then the code of, any time that exceeds the ordinance, restate the ordinance, they must go back to the planning board.
That sounds right, yeah, but somebody's gotta say that they didn't meet the ordinance.
Yes.
It's block out there. They cleared the whole spot. That doesn't meet our ordinance, yeah. Got approved, so. That's what I'm concerned about. I don't know how to afford it.
That's that on other properties, right? So.
Oh, yeah, he's a.
Well, that's where it's tough on all the projects. I mean, somebody comes in, you know, they're building
Yeah.
on, so Blaine, we approve this and then do something entirely different. That's not us. You know, there's nothing we can do there. We said this was the plan we approved.
Well, maybe we just need to, I don't know, highlight it, or emphasize the fact that we're not gonna disturb.
That's what I was looking for. When I looked at my notes. I don't remember. It was very clearly what the ordinance said. We said we're gonna maintain a vegetative buffer. But their thought was, we're gonna go cut it all down and replant.
Right. So
I
I
think
think
it's like, no, that was the idea. The idea was plant with what's there.
Yeah, we need to clarify that. I guess
Yes.
that's what I'm-
Yes. Yeah.
Plus vegetation that's already on that acreage.
Yeah.
Maybe we just-
If they want to disturb that, then they have to come back to us.
Yeah.
Tell them you can't do. You stick your post. Yeah. But I'd like to emphasize that a little.
Maybe on that point, that's something like a quick sentence we can add on 3 is to just say, if there is an existing buffer, this buffer shall remain undisturbed. And then additional planting can be incorporated into that. Because it says buffer area, all solar energy systems installation be completely surrounded by a vegetative buffer zone except for the access road. Says the width, says what it's supposed to consist of, and then just add a little caveat on the end to say,
There, east.
yeah, if there is an existing vegetative buffer, that buffer should remain, and then additional elements per the
Yeah.
ordinance should be added into it, however.
So,
What?
should, go.
Shall be.
And then put something in there about actual ground.
That's already,
Is that in there?
they can only, I think they can only mow down the vegetation.
No, it's how
Twice a year, that's.
Yeah, that's,
some they can, but.
and then there's other stuff already with stumping.
That's-
What was that part?
After they go in and clear it, plant grass. Or what place. If it's already there, she stayed.
Yeah. Okay, so, yeah, again, third-party reviewer, like you guys were saying, same thing. Let's just get with CMP, the approval, and have that on file. I think that makes sense. The cap for the megawatts, I've already said what I felt on that. I'm not against solar. I just don't, I understand the town and my own opinion is I don't want to look at solar fields everywhere. I don't want to hike Mount Pisgah. I said it a million times. And I don't want to overlook and look at solar farms. I just don't. I love the idea of us putting it on the roofs that already exist. I wish there was somebody out there trying to make that free and easy for everybody to do.
It's not.
It's not, yeah. So that's my personal opinion on it. But, and I can see where the town's coming from with it. So I am in favor in some sort of cap, maybe 10's even too small because then you're refusing any more to be built. And as long as we do have the view shed analysis, I think it does help us say you can't build it because you can see it everywhere and it's ugly. So maybe that does help us do that. So I think it's worth thinking about a cap on the amount versus the megawatts. And then all the other points I felt were fine to add in. I didn't see any other issues. That's all I got.
I don't really have any comments to the changes. I thought they were all fine. I do just logistically, I know you always have chapter 1000 on you, Greg. In our ordinance, the definition of substantial start is completion of 30% of a permitted structure or use measured as a percentage of estimated total cost. Do you mind checking? I think that comes from chapter 1000. So, I mean, if you wanted to look at that definition, that's what it is currently. And then
That's.
And what if they bought all the
Well, and
pieces already?
if they're- Towards their total project.
I think so. When we, at DEP, we used to look at visual permit and substantive construction, starts substantive construction would be, have they got equipment there? Are they doing earthmoving work? Are they physically, are they physically doing site work? That's what we should look at. 30% is a big, it is a big number, it is a little bigger. than I thought.
And then one other, this just again logistically, Greg, if you want me to make those changes, or I guess I somehow want to transfer, I guess I'm asking the question, if you guys want to go ahead in that direction of the formatting that we've got, and I can show you what the website looks like. And if you want to go in that direction, I can incorporate, I'm happy to do that for Greg, or if Greg wants me to send him the document one way or another, I just want to get clear on that.
I think I would like to ask Greg update whatever format, the change. And
Yeah, I said, just send me the new format. I'll make all those red, and I just said it. And I've got 5 things on here. I guess I just want to make sure these 5 things are things people want before I make the changes. And I know, I also, before we do that, I want to just make the point that town council's the one that's gonna vote on this, but if they like it, so I don't want to spend a lot of time trying to polish this and make it perfect. I will look into all, the word all, see if I can do that. But other than that, you know, I don't think it's worth us trying to make this perfect because the town council may have their own changes. So I'm fine. I'm just saying, if we're good, if we think we're kind of collectively close and really good, that's great. And I think we move it forward. If we want to make, you know, small changes next time, fine. It's not a big deal. I don't want to get caught here too long just because I think the town council may or may not like what we're already proposing.
did we answer your question?
Yeah, I'm just looking, I had another note. I'm all set.
Okay, so one thing I didn't talk about was different site location for relative to the neighborhood and the amount of capacity that the farm is taking off that grid or that network or that lane, I guess is a better way to state it. We talked a bit about making sure there was enough capacity. Let's say if someone wanted to add solar on their product, as a resident, there's a capacity there. So we were talking about making sure that whoever is designing the farm is considered the capacity of that lane or the grid to make sure there's capacity left. I don't know if
That's in the state statute. If it's in their CMP permit, they're required.
I
I don't know I read them. I can't repeat off the top of my head what it is. I think it's something like 20 or 30% capacity
Sounds right.
beyond their facility.
Yeah.
So they need to make sure that there is still growth capability with their interconnection.
the state's covered that.
The state, it's in there, and I would think it might actually be in if we're requesting their basically state approved permit and electrical plan.
Mhm.
I would think that might already be in there.
Yeah, that's the first thing the developers going to do. They're going to identify areas where there's real estate, and then they're going to go to power system studies. There's special consultants.
Free power and all that good stuff.
And they'll figure out what's on the line, what else is going to be built to put on the line, and do they have capacity?
And then back to the capacity of the limit. Right now, what you get in the changes is the megawatts, right?
I was, based on my changes, I was gonna drop that and just say a total number of 10 facilities.
Okay. I'm okay with that because
I heard that number and said, sure.
that's what the council kind of wrote.
And like you said, that's an easy change if they wanna make it 15 or if they wanna make it 5, that's
Yeah,
pretty easy.
about that number, whatever that is,
Yeah.
because they're gonna have to find out good and all that.
Right, as long as we're sure we don't have 11 permitted, that would be ugly, but,
Yeah, we need to find out that number.
well, I don't wanna be off if we actually have more than that.
But that number is for the future. It's not-
I guess you're right, yeah, you're right, so maybe we have 12 now and.
Their grandfather.
Have their
I
grandfather,
don't know, I think you say,
yeah, okay.
put it that way. And they'll ask the question, how many we got, someone's gonna answer it.
Right, that'll be a done question.
That's,
How many do we have?
Well, I actually started mapping them. I was just gonna see. I did start putting that information together, but I don't have any final numbers, so I didn't want to jump in and give that information.
Mr. Council, that way, what's the number we have? Bigger, and that relative to that. That's fine.
That's a pretty easy change to make, so.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but at least we start out somewhere near.
Right.
And they're capped at 15 acres, so we can also
Right.
look at it that way, to be like the total of Winthrop.
Right.
They're capped at 15. If we have 10, it's this many. That's how many acres in the whole town, so.
So we know.
Different way to look at it.
Maintaining what we have. Then we got to. If we move down the summary, what you have, or
Okay, just looking at substantive start, it does, the definition specifically substantial start often means the first permanent construction activities such as pouring footers, foundation, installation of piles, placement of prefab structures, et cetera. So it's very clear that it's not planning cost in the state or it has to be a structural component.
go down the hut.
Okay, so I had 5 things that we captured that I was going to add, change, up from what's right here. Number 1, I was gonna add, security plan. I am gonna check with the state if there's already something that's required. We can at least cite that or say add that, give it to us so that it's in our package. And then if it's not, we could say that, add a security plan. We don't have to define what that means. It's just make sure it's something we talk about when they supply it to us.
And under 11, we've got technical safety here now, just to make your as-built, and the other documentation from natural security record.
Yeah, that.
Really the contingency plan.
Yeah. And then I said, remove the third party approver. I think everybody was kind of on board. I'm just kind of glancing around, making sure no one's really upset about. That was a town council thing, and I don't think any of us really think it's that helpful. So I think we're gonna add in a building approval timeline, making sure it comes back to the planning board for approval for any extension based on time. So that one's on there. Add the change to the existing vegetative buffer that it will be maintained. So if there is an existing vegetative buffer, they're just gonna add trees, they're not gonna move it. So I'll try to wordsmith that and make sure I incorporate that. And then cap the number of facilities at 10. So take out megawatts, and just put the number of facilities at 10.
Anything else?
Just to clarify, we talked about the vegetative buffer, and it sounds like there's a slant towards maintaining existing buffer. Yet then in here, it talks about,
Plant.
yeah,
Right.
it's a big evergreen tree.
Yes. Yeah, and that was specific because people don't want to see it, and if it's all hardwood.
I understand that, so then why we require them to maintain an existing buffer, which in most cases is going to be largely deciduous trees around here.
Well, and that's why I said maybe wordsmith it. Maybe we can't say definitively, you cannot touch vegetative buffer no matter what. Work with us on a vegetative buffer, and, but I think what we don't want to have happen is what happened on 202 where they bulldozed and took it out entirely.
But there still is buffer there with DOT.
No, they can't count DOT.
I know that, but there still is that
Yes,
buffer.
yes, absolutely. But in some instances, there won't be that buffer. So, they can't go to the property line right here to maintain that buffer.
But there just seems to be some,
It,
one or two big aspects of this, saying, you gotta plant this,
yes,
but we want you to maintain an natural buffer.
Well, if it's there, it's like, don't get rid of that. That's
But,
great too,
you know-
but we want the evergreens in there. So if there's no evergreens,
Right.
if there is evergreens, then they don't have to
right.
plant
What
anything.
they bulldozed was a mixture of
Yeah.
older, small maples.
It made no
small
sense.
Hardwoods and evergreens. There was dozens of evergreens. Look at the vegetative buffer in DOTs right away, and it looked just identical before they mowed it all down. So they probably would have had the spacing or awful close to the spacing had they not touched. it. So,
You could also, I don't open a can of worms, but you could do things like ask for site restoration security, landscaping surety, so that for a year after it's planted, to make sure that it survives. If there's concerns of moving forward, that the buffer, if there's going to be issues moving forward, there are ways that you can hold them to make sure they.
ordinance requirements, state shoreline zones.
Zones over a year.
Yeah, we could just say, meeting, I'll look at that, see if we can add something.
You have enough to benefit. You have enough to benefit.
I think so.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'm sorry, did you mention the ground? Did buffer, but the actual ground cover.
We're
where these panels are gonna go.
I can add that. What you're saying is you don't want them to stop. Anyway, shape of it.
Well, or vegetation of any kind, take off the drop.
I think they
Right.
kind of have to, some of it, don't they?
If they're gonna mow it, that's gonna be a challenge if they leave all the stumps.
So, no, I'm not talking about rocks, stuff, I'm talking about the grass, hay, whatever's there.
Okay.
They can put their panels in without.
The state requires them to plant a certain number of vegetations. That's why they may have to mow it twice, they're only allowed to mow it twice. It's a very specific mixture that the state mandate they plant.
So we're okay with them stripping on. I know a lot of the people we talked to, they weren't,
Yeah, I know.
they emphasized
We
it.
talked to the developer up on 202 there. Across from the shed.
Right.
They were going to cut trees to level, they were not gonna stop.
Right.
And I don't think they were gonna scare it by topsoil, they were just gonna do legal violence for their.
Like a boulder or something like.
But. Yes, the golf course material up there.
Yeah, that's.
If they got they want to plant over, they could do it on top of what's there. I don't know why it's stripping it off, because, well. That's the case in these cities, but you gotta wait this, the door before we push panels. You open that up, it come off.
And is that gonna be site by site? I mean,
It might be, because some might have too many stumps in order to, you'd have to remove some of them, so. Every piece of land is different.
Or minimal removal of stumps.
Some already might be cleared.
Less worth rather than more.
Well, that's why 202 doesn't make sense. Why did you do all this and give yourself more work?
that-
Is Rick captured all your changes?
I believe so.
Okay, Rick is gonna take the, action, update that,
Are you going?
I thought, okay, I was.
Where are you still going?
We're leaving. No, we have the ladies' room. Well, I do. I don't know about him. I'm leaving.
Yes, Jamie does too.
Mass Exodus.
I would, yeah. I believe the next move is a public hearing.
So
We approve it.
if you're ready, because I'm going to ask you to schedule a public hearing for parking. I have that to go over. So if you want to make a motion to schedule a public hearing, I'll make sure I back into it date wise for noticing and get that on either. I believe I can do it for the next meeting because it's 3 weeks out. 13th.
You don't wanna, I think we wanna circulate it here. I want everybody here to read it before
I thought Rushy,
okay.
and at the same time, have a public meeting, and we're all in favor. Go ahead and approve it.
Okay.
Yeah, because you can still make changes.
We could always, we could always yank it off the agenda if there's a major
That's true.
issue. We could just say, no, there's a major issue.
So,
Yeah,
yeah, they're pretty close.
well, that's my guess, but there is a lot of changes here that I want to make sure everybody gets a chance to see before we. I don't think they're that hard. Maybe the vegetated buffer might be the challenge. My head's still twisting around that one a little bit, but the rest of them I think are pretty straightforward. So I think it's,
And you basically, feeding.
yeah, we can definitely make changes. Yeah, we can approve that, and as long as the rules aren't substantive, I think you're welcome. Yeah.
So we'll shoot for the next meeting. We're gonna get your patches for the last one. Next meeting, second week of May, right?
Yes,
Got that lined
second.
up?
No, unlocked.
You went, man, door doesn't lock, so I won't walk in on it. One and the other one, that door doesn't lock either. Why did one stand that? Why did one stand that? The other wasn't anybody else. I was worried.
Yeah, right.
We were just worried about me coming behind her.
Didn't want to make it an awkward meeting the rest of the time.
Plan is the next meeting, the first meeting in May, which I think 13th of this.
Yep.
We would notice it as a public hearing. What's your law?
Parking.
Parking for which ones?
Solar.
So we have a public hearing, Greg would update the data in the, verbiage and, we would need to make change fine and we would approve whatever that is.
Can we find out how many solar fields for sure? in
Yeah, I
town?
will finish that list and map.
That might be relevant to that one number.
When it's 25, we want to change it to 15, and we can do that at that meeting.
So if there's, after we notice it, it'll be based on the language, and if there are substantive changes as a result of public input, you'd notice it again, but that's the process. It's no, you know.
So under this approach, when you notice this,
Mhm.
you have.
The language, yeah. So, but I'll look at I think it's 12 days in advance. I have to look at that. But it would be probably a week and a half. Yeah.
Get that out the door. Oh,
Fair enough. Yeah, that's true.
nothing for close.
Yeah, that's,
The only, yeah, we send it out, we have major problems with it. Go over, and then you go, it's kind of silly to do a public meeting if we have major. problems with it.
Yeah.
Want to have an ad hoc
Yeah.
committee and have Greg work with Dwight or myself or Jamie or, and think, to structure something to present to the board?
I would suggest, if it's feasible, if it's doable, if it's legal, if Greg gets the information to you, and then you share it with us, and then provide feedback to you.
We're not decision making, we're just.
yeah, I know. It's, as long as it's one way and not this way, you know, and
That's,
Exhausted.
right?
yeah.
Not to us back to Dawn.
Yeah.
That's
Not
the
reply
problem.
all,
Yeah.
just reply to her.
Yeah.
Not any discussion amongst us, that comes to our meeting.
Well, and I often print those emails too for the record as well for the file, if there's communication via email, just so it's, you know, it's,
Do it that way, I think we're,
And really what we're looking for is just if there's something that,
you're,
somebody says, yeah, we do not want to present this to the public, like,
and you might get your, might get your work number or,
Mhm.
so I think if we do that, we got the ability to do what we want to do on this.
and when this gets underway, the next meeting after is the 27th. So if Greg, you're working on it and it needs to be like, yeah, this isn't realistic, the next meeting is the 27th if you wanted to have that as your backup.
What you like, it's real big,
Okay.
we have it on the agenda.
Yes, regardless, you'll have it on the agenda.
Agreeable?
Yes. Okay. LD 427 regarding minimum parking requirements. So one of the versions of the ordinance that I was working on is, there's a copy of here, and it's the table, the parking table. So I'm just gonna tell you what that says and a suggested motion for
Are we
to
handing
schedule a
this out?
public hearing. Yeah, so there's two sheets. So just make sure you get two sheets in there. No.
Why did you?
Hey, Andy.
Well, that's who we want to get.
There you go.
Yeah, so hand that down. Hand that down. I'm gonna keep doing it for everybody. Hand that down.
Here, and I was there.
Hand that, hey,
But
and now we're short on top. No, we're not. I'm an idiot. And one more. Okay, how you doing?
not there.
Yeah? A good thing.
I apologize. Was there a motion to schedule a public hearing, or how was that decided?
I thought we were.
We made it
Okay, I didn't miss it then.
for a while.
Yeah, we're gonna,
We agreed we were going to, but we haven't made a motion.
Right. But we don't.
Yeah, I jumped to the next topic without getting that.
did you pass by me and wave the other day when I was running?
Might well have.
Okay, I wasn't sure who it was. It looked like Aunt Sherry's car, or Sherry's car,
Probably shares.
but it didn't look like Sherry driving it, it looked like you.
I usually won't drive it.
Too fancy of computers.
I can't get in it when it goes on. Wow.
One parking space per.
This JK.
Jim King. So we both were working on the document, so you can see.
Yeah.
I included the comments in there. I wanted to make sure that I didn't miss something that I wanted to bring up. So yeah, there's observations about mill parking. It's not all related to this one change. I'm gonna ask you to contemplate.
So this is out of the ordinance, and this is what we have to make match. Did I miss a meeting?
Nope,
No,
nope,
this
you
is
didn't.
just new and out there. Okay.
Mr.
So
Chairman,
this is what has to be in the ordinance now?
yes, I'm gonna review that. I just want to ask, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman, could you get a motion to schedule that public hearing? Could you ask for a motion to schedule that public hearing?
Favor?
Thank you.
Oh. Thank you.
Okay, so then we're looking at the documents that were just passed around. And at the bottom is the table 4, it's the parking table, looks different because this was the different version that Jim and I were working on. But basically LD 4 LD 427. And there's been fact sheets and things that have gone out and links. I don't know if anyone's had a chance to look at that, but basically what we need to meet the requirements is in the growth area. The state says you can't require more than 1 parking space per dwelling unit. And we currently require 2 for a single family, it would be 4 for a 2-family. Multifamily dwellings, we actually are less restrictive than that because we require 2 spaces per dwelling unit townwide. So what we need to do to meet the minimum requirement is nothing to multifamily dwellings, it's already addressed. But single family dwellings in the growth area, you're only allowed to require 1 parking space. So to change the requirement from 2 to 1. And then dwelling units outside of the growth area is 2 spaces per dwelling unit, which is the existing criteria. So so this is one that we have to do. And if you want to consider parking changes further than that, those are good conversations, but in the short term, we need to meet the state standard with those 2 changes. In the growth area. You could make it less, but you can't require more than 1. That's still 0. Yep, that's still 0 across everywhere.
Sounds like we don't have a choice, though.
Wow.
Used to be 2, even for apartments downtown.
That's for people to pay the mortgage now. Need you.
Yeah.
Really?
So if you're building a house, you can have 7 parking spaces. Yeah, but you can't be required to have more. Yeah.
Read it out.
Pardon me?
It's kind of law.
That's what I was just, that's that. They will, that's what they're looking.
That's it, kind of state law, right?
Yes.
Trying to change the structure. Relative, housing. That's what you're all about.
Yeah, increased parking requirements definitely leads to less housing, higher costs, more impervious area. There's a lot of reasons that we will discuss about parking and considering less parking requirements downtown.
Bringing in the side yard is allowed.
Downtown,
Used to be everywhere.
there is a provision in the ordinance. I think it's just to the downtown for commercial structures. I don't recall. It was in the rear. There is a standard that's basically to get it out of view from the public space. So this is what the state, a change, I've got a sample motion there, which is to schedule a public hearing to amend the Winthrop zoning ordinance to require one parking space per single family or two-family dwelling in the growth area designated for the 2024 comprehensive plan. So that map exists as a result of the plan. So referencing that map, if you recall, the sewer, the water, and the growth area, we're currently having our mapping person creating one layers that you can turn and off to see where they overlay. For, discussions for the bill that just got extended for a year, and I'll tell you about that in a second, but that's the map that we're referencing, and right now it's just in PDF format. But per that map, anything in the growth area that's a residential unit is one space per unit unless it's multifamily, and then it's less. It's 2 spaces per 3 units. Yes, different format current ordinance. So I'm adding the words growth area. So currently it just says dwellings 2 per unit. So now we're going to differentiate between dwellings in the growth area and dwellings outside of the growth area. And one is 1 unit, 1 parking, and one is 2. Yep, so we'd just be making the change in the table for this particular requirement. That's it, to make sure that we notice and get it to the council and get it amended to meet the state standard. That's that one I'm asking you to consider tonight so that we can meet the requirement. Oh, wow. I don't think that was changed, Greg, but I'm gonna have to check. Oh, ours was already?
No.
Okay. Oh. So we're not in compliance. I got it. So I'll answer the question. I'll find out.
Yeah, it's section on page 23, section 6, parking dimensions and install dimensions shall be 9 by 8.5 and trailer. Yeah, I just want to make sure that that's right.
You got that,
Yep.
okay, so
Adopt the number.
I got a question.
Do we know?
It's already.
Do we know why they changed that at one parking space? Is it
To
cut down on the impervious area?
It's to take away barriers that might impede the construction of housing. So if you have a lot and you don't have enough land area for parking, you can't build the unit. So it's,
They're gonna be parking all over the place. It's just gonna be ugly.
I don't think they care.
The park anywhere.
If you build a house,
Go to
you
Portland.
don't you have 2 parking?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd rather.
Go to Boston, we wanna see that now.
So my only question was on the draft motion. Let me just make sure it's right. 1 parking space per single family or 2 family. So 2-family dwelling only needs 1 parking space.
oh, no, that's not the intention.
Okay, that's what I thought. That should have 2 for a 2-family, right? Or did they change?
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's, so if you have a single family or a 2-family, each uses 1 parking space requirement. That's the intention.
So if there's a 2-family house, 2 different families live in it.
Yeah, you have 2 parking
The
spaces.
you get 2 parking spaces. Okay.
So it's 1 space. Well, I guess the thing I was just trying to differentiate is that a single family and a 2-family, they each require 1 unit, but a multifamily has a different standard. So maybe it's just, I didn't want to say dwelling unit across the board because it's less for multifamily. So in a single family or 2-family situation, it's 1 space per dwelling unit. But if there's more than 2, it's a different calculation.
So maybe it should say family dwelling unit. Wait, 1 parking space per single family unit or somehow. It just sounds like you only need 1 parking space for a 2-family dwelling. So somehow we have to rewrite that, I think. Or one parking space.
Same. Or two things.
Definitely.
Yeah. So it's
But I
one
see the diff-
dwelling unit for single family or two family dwellings. It's one per unit.
Per unit. Yeah, add unit in there.
Because it's all.
So one parking space
But
per
that's-
unit for a single family or two family dwelling in the growth area.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all.
It's right. It's gonna make it right.
Why do we require two spaces for dwellings outside of the growth area?
That's the current standard. And you could discuss changing that. It's just not a part of what's required.
So that
No.
people actually, so there's actually parking spots and people aren't parked dangerously on the road or squishing into one parking spot. Cause it's common sense. I think basic common sense to require two parking spots per house. I
You
think
don't have
one is
to.
not enough, so
What-
why not?
We're not doing it. I can see here, somebody made that comment. Well, let's see. We consider only one parking space in areas
Yeah,
outside of the growth area.
that was me thinking out loud on paper. So it makes it a choice. It's really what it does. It makes it a choice.
What else, what can they do to us if we don't obey the state law? This is winter bad law.
It's all, whoever that may be.
Not up for that. You'll take all our state into. John, you have enough feedback.
Was there was a motion in a second?
Oh, we didn't mention it yet.
I understood too.
But I didn't think we could do that without public hearing.
So you're making motion to schedule a public hearing and on May 13th, yeah. And again, it can change as, after the hearing, but we're gonna schedule the hearing with what the state mandates and you can have further discussion. We're boring.
To amend the Winthrop zoning ordinance to require one parking space for single family, or we didn't define the second part of that yet.
Per unit for a single family or two family.
Yeah, just add unit in.
In the growth area. Designated by the 2024 Winthrop Comprehensive. Be put on our next meeting, May 13th.
Thank you.
Second? Oh. You get a second? Discussion? All in favor? Vote.
I guess one thing we should add is, I think it's going to be really good to bring the growth area back. I think the public
Yeah.
hearing should have that.
Yeah, I'll make copies of.
Look at it, but I would post it or something. I think that's something people might ask. Where is the growth area?
Yeah,
And what is the growth?
Boy, yeah, boy, it's just.
I want to know what the growth area is.
What concept of one rows?
the growth area.
Why in my house?
Yeah, well, we defined
It is.
the town.
It is.
We defined the forest.
Did we? I don't remember.
We did, the town.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I was
the
gonna be like,
comprehensive-
I don't
I
remember
gave
doing
you some
anything.
hard copies, at a previous workshop, but I'll make sure that I have more copies available and that we can show it.
Just, yeah,
What color is the growth area?
This is the zoning map, it's
Oh,
not the
okay.
growth area. Sorry.
Andy's got it. Right.
Andy, please remember, comprehensive plan is not the zoning ordinance. We wanna have a defined growth area. Then we're gonna need, even if we took it off the plan, you would have to approve it and get it. You can't just go by the comprehensive plan.
It actually,
That's advisory.
it's, the map is adopted, where the map is specifically in that instance, we're referencing that growth area map. It's not an ordinance, it's a reference, but the state mandates that we reference the growth area that is in our ordinance. I mean, I'm sorry, is in our comp plan,
Growth area and mandated in an ordinance already. Defined.
in our comprehensive plan.
No, okay, that's not, you can't do that. The comprehensive plan is advisory.
Yeah,
If we want a growth area designated, so you can regulate parking in a growth area, then we have to describe the boundaries of the growth area.
well, it's
That
mapped
makes
and you
sense.
adopted it as part of the, we can talk about it, but it is part of the plan that was adopted. So it was an actual map that you adopted as part of that. Not a description or a general reference. It's an actual map.
Who
I can
adopted
share it with you.
Town council?
Council, yeah.
Oh, okay, I was gonna be like,
I'll send you that, Andy.
Yeah.
okay.
I'll send it to you, Andy.
Yeah.
And it'll be part noticed with all the information. One second. Down.
8:30. Look at that time, guys.
Okay.
Just
That was the big action that I needed. So the other items, the only action I needed was that the other items, that I've been incorporating them, but I'm gonna, with your, not permission, but guidance, I'd like to go ahead and start using the document that is ultimately going to be our codified, unified code, which is the sample solar ordinance, the sample subdivision. And so the changes that are required here, I'd like to put them in that ordinance and go over them at a future meeting, but the parking, we needed short term. Yeah, yeah, because I've got them. They were just an FYI, really. There's a draft moratorium at the state level for data centers. We had talked about that recently. And they took the lead on that. And then there's an act, I think I mentioned this previously, to eliminate requiring public notice in newspapers. And we've talked about that a number of times. So I just wanted to point that out. I do have some folks that need training, and I'll just send a separate email for that. And I have, some information about the training. We've touched on it, but I just want to remind folks, there are some people who do need training because now it's mandated under 1829. And the law change that I referenced earlier in the meeting and in an email it's commonly called the Fix-It Bill. And so LD 1821-9 is the one that had all these requirements around density, changing density. And there was a huge number of people who had concerns. And so they had hearings and they passed an emergency ordinance that was just passed this past week. So it changed everything. So the timing of this new format coming out and switching gears on the changes is really good, ultimately. So
training.
yeah, I merged that into another discussion. So I have my direction. I do.
Is it, if you've done it since you've been appointed, you're good?
Well, the circled ones are the ones that I have. I don't have documentation that folks attended the training. Do you want me to just email that to everyone? Do you want me to? Okay.
Plan to go again.
I did this online years ago, but I don't know how current it is supposed to be, and I don't know what right to know is. I don't think.
Freedom of Information Act.
Didn't we do an online one? You were on an online one. I did the same one.
Yeah.
Was that the MMA one?
Yeah.
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 So I did.
So if that is wrong, let me know what the documentation I have, that's what it shows. And I could just be missing documentation, and then I'll update that and I'll send it to everyone with the options of the training. That's really it for tonight.
This is the one I did. Mhm.
No, I have a question.
Can't believe that actually popped up.
This bill has been, it has been acted. It has been passed, so this is good,
Oh, I have the certificate.
good as done.
We have to have the public hearing. It is done at the state level. We are required now. And this is by July 1st. The one that got modified, the Fix-It bill, they changed, part of that change was that they allowed until 2027 to implement it. Because everyone was cramming to get it done by this deadline, and it's a big impact. So
So who wrote
that was all extended.
Bill is it?
I don't recall.
Let me make a note.
It was a woman. I can't remember who it was.
Find out. Be able to find out.
Well, it's all online.
It's like that. Talk to the person. Talking about, talk to the builder. There's someone I know, I'll talk to. And look for what's. Does that make sense to me?
I'm happy to go over it with you another time. If elements of it that aren't making sense,
It's not making sense.
we go over it. Well, we'll go over it at future meetings when we have the changes, in front of you. And then I'm happy to answer questions outside of that as well, Betty.
Okay. So I'm not.
Hang on, hang on. I'm as confused as Betty, but let's go on. Not good.
That's not good.
Maybe.
Doing
And,
No.
Don,
The next things that we have, we're getting to the, deadline is 4/27, the parking, the solar ordinance, and then we have more time for LD 1829 / fix it bill. And then there's one that's out there that we already meet, LD 997. So I just want to confirm those are the things you're working on. We may have to ask for an extension for the residential care facilities because the moratorium. I have to double check that. I think it's August. We should look at that more closely and make sure that if we need an extension that we request it in a time or that we prioritize it in what we're doing.
we have those LD,
The what, I'm sorry?
2 LDs we're gonna work.
I do have copies. I can, I mean, they may have markings on them, but I have copies I can give you. You need it.
We have the LD put a
I'm sorry?
shed,
Yeah, there were some colored informational sheets.
Okay.
I have printouts. You should have them, I'm sure, in your binder. And then there are also links on the agenda take you to the website that they're posted.
Yeah.
If you don't, let me know. I'm happy to print some for you.
yeah. On yours. So,
Yes, I'm all set.
we're doing like meetings, so. We're. So,
And that came in this afternoon. I have not reviewed it for completeness. It is for Roopers and you have reviewed, different versions. I'm not sure where this one is at, but if I brought them in case anyone wants to take it, they're not freehold punched. So you can't stick it in your binder, but if you want to take it with you, you can. There's changes. Pardon me? And I can't confirm 100% because they submitted it today. I'll circulate it to the departments tomorrow and I'll take a look at it myself and make sure they have, and remember, it doesn't have to be correct. But if I will try to work with them to, if it's grossly off, then I won't send it to you formally. Potentially the mill. Yep, they've been working. I met with them this morning for a couple hours. They're really trying to address the things that were raised. On the agenda, potentially. So I've got to make sure I have all the materials. Yeah.
Little spark went off between my ears. And I had frost.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh my God. Yeah, no, I remember, I think it was the last meeting, we were talking about the mill, the new apartments and the parking issues. And the Morton Street issue, and then what's the name of the street on the side?
Yeah.
White Street. Yeah, anyway, they're both two-way streets with one-way service. Yeah, okay, this is a pipe dream. Well, it could be done. I think the mill owns enough property beyond the existing parking lot. Be able to go down Morton Street, build the road across the stream and come back up the other street, and make the whole thing one way. Where the money comes from, how much does that cost, will the mill share? All those questions. Will the state help, is there a grant? It's just an idea.
Along that line,
to the stretch. Talking to one of the issues with chimney was off. I don't know, my sense is that mentality is that they work on an interest project. And they come in with that perspective. I'm not sure that's healthy for the process to move on. So, when I'm saying, those are the two concerns that we voiced. My sense is that on priority or the requirement.
I've been having,
I'm not the engineer.
yeah,
Talk about the owner.
yeah.
Okay? So, I'd like to have any kind of another confrontation that not responding.
I think that will be addressed. I wasn't sure last time we talked to you, but we met with Bill Monagle this morning with the project with Mr. Roberge. Mr. Green has not been involved, which in my experience is unusual because there are physical site improvements that go along with this new use in the building. And right now you have the person who's doing the building project is kind of responsible for exterior improvements because the owner isn't part of those conversations and there's funding and permission. And so it's a little tricky, but I believe we are addressing. We won't come to you if it's not addressed. Yeah. They do know.
That could.
They do know. I wrote it down.
You did.
I think everybody's heard, everybody, everybody satisfied, okay.
Motion to adjourn.
I second.
I got that one. No, I'm just kidding. Good.
All in favor, who's got enough second?
Can I vote on this?
All in favor? Thank you, folks,
Thank you all so much.
appreciate it.
Rick, I need to grab you for